Marriage on The Gilded Age might be used for status or convenience, but the show's stars take a much different approach to their forever people, on top of living much less luxurious lives, though they do all seem to spend a lot of time at the theatre. Carrie Coon's career has been blowing up the past decade, and in 2022, she added to her impressive IMDb page with the leading role of Bertha Russell in The Gilded Age. But like most actors, Coon didn't pop onto the scene as an A-lister and had to work her way up through the ranks, with one of those stops not only landing her a role, but a partner in love. Back in 2010, upon arriving at a callback audition for Steppenwolf Theatre's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, she ended up meeting writer and actor Tracy Letts. Coon landed the role, and soon landed Letts himself, as the two began dating. 3 years into their relationship, they were ready to get married. But the downside of them both achieving tons of professional success meant that they couldn't find time to officially tie the knot. As Coon explained to Rolling Stone in April 2018, the pair already had a marriage license that was set to expire, so when they finally had a spare moment together, they made it official. At least, that's what Coon explained to Letts later, as he was, quote, high as a kite on painkillers while recovering in the hospital from emergency gallbladder surgery, the day after they had scheduled a courthouse wedding.
And my family said you had to drug him to get him to marry you?
Best unconventional wedding ever.
Coon summed up the experience by saying, Tracy's WGA insurance covered that whole visit, so it was a very inexpensive wedding. Letts said goodbye to his gallbladder that day, but said hello to a wife in Coon. The couple now share 2 children and have collaborated a number of times on varying projects. Another example of finding love on the stage, Morgan Spector, George Russell on The Gilded Age, met his future wife Rebecca Hall during a theatre production in 2014. The two married the following year, but otherwise they keep the details of their relationship mostly under wraps. One might think it's fairly difficult for 2 established actors to stay out of the limelight, but in another interview with People in March 2024, Hall explained that keeping a low profile goes hand in hand with their lifestyle, saying, "We live in the countryside away from everything, a very rural situation. We're actually pretty quiet people." Louisa Jacobson's filmography may not be as extensive as her mother's, a little-known actor who goes by the name of Meryl Streep, but she's since made a name for herself with her role as Marion Brooke on The Gilded Age.
I was like, yeah, Mom, I have it under control. She's like, okay, enough from me.
Her on-screen performance isn't the only time she's caught attention. In June 2024, Jacobson shared an update on Instagram with a handful of selfies of herself and her girlfriend, producer Anna Blundell. The post wasn't simply an announcement of her relationship, it also served as her way of coming out to the public for the first time. During a May 2025 conversation with Elle, Jacobson expressed how she felt about opening up like that to the world the year prior, saying, "I'm so lucky to have had so much support. I feel like my life is expanding. It's a beautiful thing." While her character's love life may be full of tragedy, Denée Benton's experience in the real world has gone much better. Benton and actor Carl Lundstedt studied acting at Carnegie Mellon University at the same time, allowing them to run into each other often. After dating for 5.5 years, Lundstedt enacted an elaborate proposal plan that saw him utilizing his Carnegie Mellon training. He pretended to drop his wallet somewhere at the Met cloisters, giving him an excuse to get down on one knee. The plan caught Benton off guard, which is exactly what she wanted. As she explained to Vogue, "The joke's on me because my one requirement for our proposal was that he surprise me, even though I'm a controlling Capricorn and don't really love surprises." The couple eventually tied the knot in January 2020, luckily getting it out of the way before the craziness of the pandemic began. Like her co-star, Taissa Farmiga also got married in 2020, and though she wasn't as lucky when it came to timing, it all still worked out for the couple. In November 2020, Farmiga revealed to her Instagram followers that she and filmmaker Hadley Klein had taken their relationship to the next level 7 weeks prior, and she had the photo evidence to prove it. Any of Farmiga's followers that may have gotten their feelings hurt over not knowing sooner only had themselves to blame. If they'd simply popped over to Klein's Instagram, they would have seen a certain telling post a week after their wedding, where Klein wrote, Happy birthday to my super hot but also cool wife. So happy to have an excuse to stuff our faces full of birthday sweets all week." Blake Ritson played the long game with Hattie Morahan, his now wife and one-time fellow Gilded Age cast member. The couple met while studying at Cambridge in the late 90s and have been inseparable ever since. And they didn't need any sort of paperwork to let people know how official their love was. While it's unclear when exactly Ritson and Morahan became engaged, it took well over a decade for the two to tie the knot, with Morahan telling Express in July 2015 that the couple was happy just the way they were.
Not your husband or children. I'm not married.
When pressed about whether there were any upcoming wedding plans, the actor didn't appear to be in a rush, replying, "I don't think so, maybe when we're 80. A walk down the aisle be darned." The couple welcomed their daughter into the world, followed by a son in 2020. Ritson and Morahan have remained incredibly private when it comes to their relationship, but it was revealed that they eventually did get hitched sometime between late 2024 and early 2025. The only couple on this list who can claim to have worked with the iconic British comedy troupe Monty Python, Simon Jones and Nancy Lewis were together for nearly 40 years before Nancy passed away from leukemia in January 2020. Nancy was the head of publicity for Buddha Records when the company began working with Monty Python, and continued to represent the troupe throughout the 70s and into the 80s, helping bring them to the attention of American audiences. Meanwhile, Jones has been a fixture on British TV screens for decades, popping up in everything from Brideshead Revisited in the 80s to Downton Abbey. His and Nancy's paths crossed professionally when he popped up in a cameo for Monty Python's The Meaning of Life in 1983, and became forever intertwined romantically when the couple was married that same year. The Gilded Age features no shortage of butlers on the show, but only one of them is a retired ordained priest, and appropriately, he's named Church. Jack Gilpin met his wife, Anne McDonough, with a little help from playwright Wendy Wassertein. Anne explained in conversation with the Lincoln Center Theatre blog in April 2018, "We were at a party, and we looked over at Jack. I told Wendy, 'He's too good for me,' and Wendy replied, 'No, he's not.' That encouragement was helpful." And apparently, it was all that was needed, as the couple tied the knot in 1985 and went on to have 3 children. One of whom is Betty Gilpin, 3-time Emmy-nominated star of Glow. Both McDonough and Gilpin enjoyed relative success as actors as well, though McDonough leaned into stage productions while Jack preferred to stay in front of the camera, at least when he wasn't in the pulpit. Armed with a Master of Divinity degree and beginning his service in 2012, Gilpin retired from his priestly duties in 2020, but thankfully for Gilded fans, continued acting. No stranger to HBO productions, Cynthia Nixon stayed in New York but transported herself back a century to play kind-hearted widow Ada Forte. In real life, however, the former Sex and the City star married education advocate and activist Christine Marioni, who is still very much alive. But the actor's marriage was a surprising twist in her love life. Not only did she have 2 children from a previous relationship with a man, but as she told Radio Times in March 2017, "I had never dated a woman before or even kissed a woman or anything." When she began dating Marioni in 2004, her new partner was concerned about whether or not she was ready to be in a same-sex relationship, telling stylist, "When we started seeing each other, Christine kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for me to panic about what this would mean, to my career or to myself, as if somehow I just hadn't noticed that she was a woman." But Marioni's fears were abetted after meeting Nixon's mother. The two got engaged in 2009 and added their son Max to the family in 2011. If a soap opera star offers you a ride home, give it some consideration, as there's a slight chance that the two of you will fall deep into a loving relationship. At least that was the case for Christine Baranski and her late husband Matthew Coles of All My Children fame. The two met while working together on a play back in 1982. He offered her a ride home, and over 30 years and 2 children later, they were still together.
And I remember saying to him, "Matthew, I'm scared," and he said, "So am I."
Sadly, Coles died in 2014 from congestive heart failure. Baranski reflected on her loss to Parade in 2017, saying, "The death of a loved one is not only deeply sad, but also very disorienting. When you've had a 30-year marriage and sat across from this person every morning having coffee, it's so strange. Someone is there and then suddenly they're not there to talk to ever again." But Coles lives on in the memories of his loved ones, and he even has a slight connection to the Gilded Age. Baranski told Deadline that she had once approached Julian Fellowes, creator of Downton Abbey, and told him Coles had ancestry that linked to the Drexel family, a New York aristocratic family from the Gilded Age. It's not every day that someone gets to marry their celebrity crush, but Celia Keenan-Bolger just so happened to luck out. In 2002, she attended a production of The Butter and Egg Man, in which John Ellison Conley was starring. Taken with both his performance and the man himself, Keenan-Bolger spoke to Broadway Buzz about her infatuation in January 2011, saying, "When his name would come up, I would always say, 'Ah, John Conley, my boyfriend from The Butter and Egg Man. I love that guy.'" She eventually spoke it into existence, as her friend and actor Sarah Salzberg wound up working with Conley and set the two up. To complete the confirmation that some fantasies do indeed come true, Keenan-Bolger finally married her dream man and they had a child together in 2015. If there's one thing you can take away from this video, it's that the theatre seems to be the place to find love. And of course, that's where Broadway legend Kelli O'Hara would find it for herself. O'Hara was co-starring in a play with a friend who decided to set her up with actor, theatre runner and musician Greg Naughton. It took several months for O'Hara to accept the blind date, and in December 2002, she attended a concert he was performing in. She recalled to the New York Times in 2007, "It was just before everyone Googled everybody, so I wasn't sure who Greg was. But when Naughton began to sing, she was captivated almost instantly. Google be darned." The couple tied the knot in 2007, and 2 years later, they had a son. The in-demand star's performance schedule shifted significantly after becoming a mother, but thankfully, as she shared with the Lincoln Center Theatre blog in 2009, her husband is apparently just as good of a father as he is a singer, which is saying something. Since then, she and Naughton have welcomed one more child, a daughter in 2013.